All right, let's unmute. All right, what is up, everybody? I was muted. That was weird. Welcome to today's Unstoppable Live. I am so incredibly excited to be over here. That was weird. Welcome. Oh, that's a weird echo. Wow. Okay. I promise I wouldn't be one of those guys that doesn't know how to operate a live, but here we are. Okay, I think we're all good now. All right, we're live. Everyone is here. If you can hear me, if you can see me, hit me with a yes in the chat. Today, I'm going to be discussing a very special topic. We're going to be talking about how to build a scalable SaaS business while we're disrupting an enterprise spreadsheet while we're at it. So that's the topic. And so I'm really excited to be over here. I want to thank you guys for joining. I'm incredibly honored that you took some time on this random part of your day to take some time out and actually think about SaaS strategy and how to grow SaaS businesses. This whole training, this whole webinar came to be because of this tweet. I tweeted this out. This was actually like probably a month or two ago. And I've been on Twitter forever, and this has been one of my biggest tweets. And it was kind of an off the cuff thinking. I was just like, look, every spreadsheet in a large organization is a potential software company. And as you can see, beyond just the likes and the retweets and the comments, it just sparked a huge discussion with a lot of people that I know very well and respect in the space. And we were like, oh my God, that's so true. And I've done a bunch of videos here on Unstoppable about SaaS opportunities. Obviously, I love SaaS businesses, and I think there's tremendous amount of opportunity for SaaS businesses, not just in the enterprise, but in the mid-market, in the small business, and for consumers. It's an incredible opportunity, but this was one of those things where we're like, wow, this is really true. And so I wanted to pull on that thread on this webinar where if you want to go build a successful SaaS business, I'm going to be talking about what does it take to build a successful SaaS business and how do those things become a lot easier if you follow this sort of mantra, if you will, which is every spreadsheet in a large organization is a potential software company. So if you're excited to dig in, just a quick little background on me in case you're new to our community, in case you're new to Unstoppable. Everything that I'm about to teach you are all principles I've built and learned around building a SaaS business. And the principles that I'll be teaching you come from 15 years of experience as a founder, a venture-backed CEO, a senior executive across multiple SaaS businesses. That's where it comes from. And I want to be clear, my path to being a founder and a CEO was all over the place. It was crazy and it was convoluted. I've always loved building software. I always knew I just loved creating software and serving people. And I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but it wasn't a straight path to being an entrepreneur. My first startup was a company called HipCal. This is me right over here. That's called Baby TK with my co-founders. We built a company in our fraternity house. This is our fraternity house, Alpha Chi Rho. And we actually sold that company right after building it as we were graduating college. And then after that, I actually ended up working at a hedge fund. I didn't go build another company, even though I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I worked at a hedge fund, and then through the twists and turns, finally I said, I'm unhappy in life. It's not going really well. I really want to go back to building businesses. I really want to go back to having an impact. And so it was 2010 when I actually took the plunge again to really build out my SaaS business. And that was called ToutApp. ToutApp was my last SaaS business, and it essentially was sales engagement software. And ToutApp started in my second bedroom in my apartment and grew to be a venture-backed company. We ended up pioneering the space around sales engagement. And then we ended up selling the company to Marketo. So we're backed by Andreessen Horowitz, Jackson Square Ventures. I raised venture capital. I took it from 0 to 7 million ARR, and then we sold the company to Marketo. And it was an incredible journey, but it went through twists and turns. So regardless of where you are in your SaaS journey, if you're a pre-founder, where you're just starting out and you're trying to find the right idea, or you're already building a SaaS business and you're really trying to figure out how to get your strategy right, how to get the growth right, or you're well into generating revenues for your SaaS business and really trying to figure out how to grow it, you're going to learn something out of this webinar. And that's how I sort of built all these principles. So, co-founded and sold HipCal to Plaxo. It was my first SaaS business. Worked at Bridgewater, one of the best hedge funds in the world. Then built ToutApp, sold ToutApp to Marketo. And then at Marketo, I served as the SVP of strategy. I was part of the executive team, and we did a 2-year turnaround and sold that to Adobe for $4.75 billion. So that's my story. I just wanted to give you the background. I'm not making this stuff up. I have deep experience in building SaaS businesses, multiple SaaS businesses. And so that's where I come from. And now I'm on a mission to help founders build incredible SaaS businesses. Most of my time goes towards coaching SaaS CEOs. If you are a SaaS CEO and you really want to work one-on-one with me, I charge $25K a quarter plus equity. That's how I roll. And that's the type of value that I bring. That's what I strive for. So you're welcome to reach out. But in this training, this is completely free. I'm going to take everything that I've learned on building SaaS businesses. And we're talking about how to build a scalable SaaS business. But the angle we're talking about is how do you do it through disrupting an enterprise spreadsheet? Because if you believe what I believe, which is every major spreadsheet in a large organization can become a really profitable, thriving, scalable SaaS company, then there's some secrets to be learned about what makes those spreadsheets so important and how you can actually apply the principles around building a SaaS business to actually disrupting a spreadsheet. And somehow like it actually makes the whole thing easier. That's what I'm going to be showing you. So I want to make sure that you get good value here. So leave this webinar if you're a dabbler versus an action taker. I like working with action takers. If you don't have a little bit of grit, building SaaS businesses are amazing, but it's not for the faint of heart. This is hard work. It takes effort. You got to work at it. And this is not some sort of like get rich quick scheme of a SaaS business. SaaS businesses are really, really hard, but that's why they're so valuable. And also, I'm going to give you all of my training. In fact, we're probably going to go like an hour of training. But after that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about an offer for you to work with me. So if you get annoyed by that type of thing, I just want to be fully transparent. I'm going to do that. So I just, you can leave. I don't want to annoy anybody. But settle in and stick around if you'd like to build a SaaS business. If you like frameworks that accelerates your path to results, this is a good webinar to be on. If you value the principle of measure twice, cut once, meaning you'd rather get the strategy right and then execute really, really aggressively, then this is the right place to be. If you'd rather focus on building your unique engine rather than reinventing the wheel, this is also the right place for you. And I'm going to give you some bonuses for staying all the way till the end. I will do a live Q&A session. I will send you a copy of my slides, and one winner that stays till the end will get a copy of my upcoming book, Ship Code, Close Deals, Strategies on How to Build a SaaS Business. They're actual field notes. So I'm really excited. I hope you're ready to dig in. Let me who's ready to dig in? If you are, hit me with a yes. I'm going to give you the secret, right? I'm going to give you of all my years of building SaaS businesses, good businesses that took off. And I'll tell you some stories about the ones that didn't go anywhere. I learned this one thing. There's this one thing that I learned that was super important. Great SaaS businesses are built on three things. Number one is the market strategy. Number two is the product strategy. And number three is the go-to-market strategy. A lot of us, and I did this when I was first starting out, and I'll tell you about some of my product failures. We tend to over-index on product strategy. And we over-index on product strategy, and we build all these features, and then we say, let's go turn on content marketing, and then we try and sell it and market it and growth hack it, and it doesn't go anywhere. The truth is, in order for getting the SaaS business to be successful, you need to look at these three things and configure them the right way. Market, product, go-to-market. That's the big secret. If you can get that one strategy down that incorporates these three things, if you can actually get your SaaS strategy down right across these three things, then you will win. That is the difference between the ones that succeed and the ones that don't. You guys getting this? Now, I know this sounds overly simple, so we're going to dig a little bit into each three of these. And I'm going to tie in exactly how spreadsheets tie into this, because here's the thing. Getting the right market strategy, getting the right product strategy, getting the right go-to-market strategy can be hard unless you look for an enterprise spreadsheet. That's the hack. If you're like, what's the quick hack? That's the hack. So the three secrets I'm going to dig into for you to really drill into how do you get your SaaS strategy right. Now, this is true whether you're a pre-founder or you just started, or I work with founders that are at scale and they need to grow their businesses. Market, product, go-to-market. Those are the three things that matter. And so the three secrets I'm going to dig into is why market is everything. That's the first secret. Second is great product is about loops and not features. And the third is why you should build an audience early and use go-to-market to validate. These are the three things I'm going to be digging more into. And by the way, building SaaS businesses actually become infinitely easier if you can identify a mission-critical spreadsheet being used in a large organization. So I'm really going to dig into how to use that hack, how to use that sort of like lever around spreadsheets to actually make all of this stuff a lot easier. All right. So let's dig into secret number one. Who wants to hear about secret number one? Are you guys ready for this? Okay. So secret number one is market is everything. Now, The way I structure this presentation, for those of you that followed me for a while, you may know that these are the three things, like market, product, go-to-market. Those are the three things. And you might be like, I already know this, but don't worry. What I'm going to show you is how these three things become infinitely easier if you apply the spreadsheet principle to it. So the first secret for those of you that are new is market is everything. Here's the thing. You can take a mediocre team and a mediocre product, but if you pair that to a phenomenal market, a market with the wind behind its back, a market with a force that's pulling for the solution, they will win. But you can take the world-class team and pair it with a crappy market where the timing's off, the wind is not behind their back, macro trends aren't quite there, they will not succeed. It'll just be infinitely harder. And so what I tell founders when I coach them is like, look at the market first. The market speaks for itself. And if you can pick the right market, and yeah, there's some luck involved in this, but there's certain things you can do to actually pick the right market, and you will be infinitely better off. So the market strategy is the number one most important thing. Regardless of what stage you are in your SaaS business, you really want to hone in on your market strategy. How do you do that? Well, there's three things I tell people to look at. Number one, what's your ICP, ideal customer profile? And the second thing is, are there real macro trends that are happening in your market that really makes your problem and your solution urgent and important? Urgent and important. That's the bar you need to hit in order to be successful in building a SaaS business. So the question becomes, all right, what does the ICP look like, right? And everyone kind of rolls their eyes when I say ICP because like, yeah, we got it, ideal customer profile. I got it. Some people call it the Dream 100. The truth is, most people do ICP wrong. If your ICP, initial customer profile, not your ideal customer profile, your initial customer profile. I always think of it as initial because there's always more of the world you can conquer, but you won't earn the right to conquer those things unless you conquer this first. I think of it as, what is your niche, right? The riches are in the niches. That's the thing I keep telling people. So if this is everyone in the world and this is your ideal customer profile, right here is your niche, right? That's what you want to conquer first. When you zoom into that, what that means is they have money to spend. They have an urgent problem, and it's an important problem, and they're willing to be early adopters, because chances are, if you're a startup, you're selling to early adopters. You're not selling to late adopters. They're not going to trust you yet. And when you actually have all three of this, they have the budget, it's an urgent, important problem, and they're an early adopter, boom, that's where the money is. That's where the growth is. That's where the scale is. That's where the ripe market is. So I always coach founders to figure out, and we have specific ways of doing this, how do you really define your ideal customer profile to be your initial customer profile that meets this kind of criteria? Because if you can hone in on that, everything is going to become a lot easier. You guys getting this? And so you might be saying, okay, got it. But man, that sounds like a high bar. Like, how do I do this, TK? How do you actually find a great market, right? It's easy to find a market, but how do you find a great market? How do you find out, like, if you're working with the right group of people? So here's a set of questions that I ask, that you can answer yourself to really validate your ICP. This is not exhaustive in any way, and this is not enough to run with the strategy, but this will get you start thinking about it. So first one is, who do you want to serve? Who are the group of people that you want to serve? I think of this as you're hosting 5 dinners a month, right? Who are these people you're hosting dinners for? They're customer dinners. Do you want to spend time with them? Do you understand their problems? Do you have domain knowledge around them? Then I would ask, what spreadsheet are they using? Are they using a certain spreadsheet right now? So much of the world still runs on old crap. Meaning they don't have some fancy software. They don't have some SaaS solution. They're just running on spreadsheets. They're old. Maybe they're running on a ledger even. So the question I would ask is, what spreadsheets are they using? Are they using a certain spreadsheet? The next question I would ask is, are they collaborating with others on that spreadsheet, right? Who do you want to serve? What spreadsheet are they using? Are they collaborating with others on that spreadsheet? Then I would ask, are they manually pulling data from other places into this spreadsheet? Are they looking up a data somewhere? Are they looking up over here? Are they looking up in this system? Are they copying it from here? Are they looking up in an email and then saying, oh, let me plug this in over here in this spreadsheet, right? You would be amazed how many people are doing this. Who are these people? You want to find them. Are they manually looking at calculations and trends and then making business decisions? Are they like constantly looking at that spreadsheet, looking at the data change, looking at the calculations change and saying, oh my God, we need to change something. We need to do something. And then I would ask, are they then going into another application, another system, another thing, and taking action based on the data and the insights in that spreadsheet? These are the questions I would ask. And by the way, if you can find a market, a group of people you want to serve who are doing all of these things, if you can answer yes to all of these things, then you've got a great market ripe for disruption. Are you guys getting this? Now, what I'm trying to get you to shift on is, yeah, you got to find a great market, but you might be saying, like, how do I even find a great market? Like, how do I do that? Like, how do I know if the market I'm in is a great market? Here's how. Here are the questions you can start to ask to really dig into, is this an urgent, important problem? Do they have money to spend? And are they early adopters? And are they doing these things? If they are, then they're ripe for a SaaS solution. They're ripe for disruption. This spreadsheet is ripe for disruption. Are you guys getting this? So let's dig into this a little bit more, right? Like, there is a more visual way of thinking about it. This is the anatomy of a critical spreadsheet in a large organization. The first thing they do is they're inputting data into the spreadsheet. Someone logs in and says, I'm going to type in all this stuff into the spreadsheet. Boom. The second thing they do is they share that spreadsheet with a bunch of other people and they collaborate around that spreadsheet. The third thing they do is they enrich, compare, and sync the data with other systems. They pull in data from other systems, they compare it, they maybe enrich the data with like 3 other things, and then they calculate stuff based on the data that's in the spreadsheet. And based on that, they're making decisions and taking action based on the data and the insights. Are you guys getting this? Now, for those of you that are in the audience that are looking at this and are like, oh my God, this is like totally a SaaS business. Yes, that's right. That is the whole point of this, right? Everyone looks at a spreadsheet and they're like, oh yeah, like it's a spreadsheet. But think about all that's happening in the spreadsheet. Now, in the later section, I'm going to go into how do you actually create your product strategy to disrupt a spreadsheet. But let's stay on market, right? If you can find a group of people that you want to serve and happen to have a critical spreadsheet like this that are doing all these things, then you've got a great market. Are you guys getting this? Can you just think about the opportunities that exist out there? This is why I get so incredibly excited about SaaS businesses, because I look at spreadsheets everywhere and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much to be done here. This is why I practically want to start a PE or a VC firm called Spreadsheet Capital. I'll just fund the crap out of as many spreadsheet SaaS businesses, disruptors as possible. But that's for another day. That's for another story. So going back to this, the riches are in the niches. So find a great market. Find a great market, has money to spend, has urgent, important problem, early adopter. You do those 3 things. How do you do those 3 things? How do you find a great market? Find the spreadsheets. Follow the spreadsheets, and you will find a great market. Are you guys with me? That was secret number 1. That's how you lay down your market strategy. Now, who wants secret number 2? You guys want me to dig into secret number 2? Secret number 2 is, how do you actually disrupt that spreadsheet? Replacing a spreadsheet is harder than you think, unless you follow a certain framework, right? And I'm going to teach you that framework right now. Who wants me to dig into that? Let me take some water real quick. Okay, cool. So great product. This is secret number 2 of any SaaS business. Forget spreadsheets for a second, right? Secret number 2 is great product is about loops and not features. I learned this the hard way because I come from a technical background. I have a computer science degree and I have a business degree. I have a double major. And so I code. Tout up, 50% of the code in production is still mine, which is crazy, but it still is. My natural inclination was falling into what I call the one more feature trap. The thing is, before I built ToutApp, right? ToutApp is a company that took off. I tried and failed at multiple products. I did. They all had tons of features, but the product go-to-market didn't match up. I didn't have the strategy right. That's how I learned this the hard way. And so one of the things that I worked on was this thing called Recommend. I literally used to code this late at night after my day job. I built this thing out, and what it did was collect recommendations on a certain thing. I built all of this out in Ruby on Rails. And this was 2007. You can tell I was using Firefox. This is like way back in the day, right? Then in 2010, I built out this thing called BrainTrust. BrainTrust was a group collaboration tool. Look at all these features that I added, right? It had sharing, it had file sharing, it had real-time collaboration. You could invite people. I built all of this in my spare time. It was insane. I kept adding more features, more features, more features. And I kept thinking, oh my God, this is going to be huge, but nothing happened. And then I went to Startup Weekend. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to go deep into this. So I went to New York Startup Weekend, also in 2010. And I built this thing again. I built a third product called Main Street. Main Street was this thing where you click one button, you put in your restaurant's address, and it'll automatically create a beautiful website for your restaurant that pulls in Yelp reviews, Foursquare check-ins, Google Maps ratings, the address, the phone number, and buttons to actually get in touch. That's all you really want on a restaurant website. And I built that. And we actually won an award there. It was insane. And VCs were giving me their cards. This is all the things that I did in 2010 on my path to becoming CEO. I quit my job, launched Brain Trust, then I launched Tout, and then I did Main Street. I started a single founder group. Like I was doing a bunch of things. And then finally I went and did, none of these were working. I kept adding more features. And then I launched Tout. And Tout, for some reason, because I had so much going on already, I built Tout for myself. I built it so that I could email people with a template, letting them know about these products that I built so I would get more users. It was kind of ironic. And it just took off. Like within 3 days, it was generating revenues. Within 3 months, way more users, way more revenues than any of these guys. What happened? The thing was, because I wasn't paying as much attention to Tout, I just kind of built it for myself. I focused on a loop, not features. Whereas these things, I was trying to build them for scale. I was trying to make them as big as possible. So I kept adding more features instead of doing all three, which is market, product, go to market. With Tout, I'm like, look, this is the warm workflow. I just need this to solve my problem. I just want to build this. Oh, by the way, I should just ship this out and let people sign up. Boom. And the market was like anyone that needs to send a lot of emails. It was a great market. I backed into it. And it just took off. And what I learned there is that great products are all about loops, not features. So it's so easy. I did this. Like this was me. Think of this. I made 3 products on my spare time. This wasn't my full-time job. I didn't even raise money. Think about how much it takes to build all these products. And I kept getting, and I see so many founders that are like, oh yeah, we just need to add this one feature. We talked to this customer. They don't want to buy right now, but if we add these 3 features, they'll buy. I'm like, they're not going to buy. They're just not. And you're not one feature away. What you need to find is the one product loop that you need to actually solve for. The one product loop. A product loop means it gets you to one result instead of 50 different results. And then if you can get your hook on that, it's a great market, they'll pull you into a whole bunch of other loops. You got to get that one loop. That's the thing that I learned. So how do you connect this to spreadsheets? Well, let's go back to the anatomy of a critical spreadsheet again, right? Here's why spreadsheets, if you look at a spreadsheet, it makes building SaaS businesses easier. I already showed you like what questions to ask to find a spreadsheet that's very valuable, and that'll get you to a great market. The second thing is how do you get to a great product loop? That's your second secret number 2, right? So if you actually look at the anatomy of a spreadsheet, there's some patterns here, right? How do you turn this spreadsheet, which has this loop, right? You have people inputting data. You have people collaborating. They're enriching, comparing, and syncing the data. They're calculating stuff. They're trying to draw out insights. Then they're making decisions and taking action, right? There's a pattern to this. And the pattern is, the first thing is your SaaS business, your SaaS offering, first has to make the actions a workflow, right? Pick out the people and figure out what their core workflow is so they can run that workflow over and over and over. Part of that is inputting data that you may not be able to get anywhere else. Part of that is collaborating, all right? And part of that is executing. Tout app, it was super easy. You just need to type in the email address. And you type in the emails, that's like action number 1. Action number 2 is pick the template, action number 2. Action number 3 was hit send, boom. Action number 4 was then it actually working for me in the background to figure out if they opened an email, if they clicked on a link, if they replied or not, if they went to the website, and reminding me to follow up again. That was all this stuff that I was doing manually. I would like keep a spreadsheet, people I need to reach out to. Did I reach out to them? Do I need to follow up? Tout did all of that for me. Just replace that spreadsheet. So step number 1 in your product strategy, if you want to disrupt the spreadsheet, is just say, all right, what actions do they take? Let me figure out the core workflow. The next thing you want to do is figure out what you can automate, right? If you think about a spreadsheet, these human beings, these poor human beings are just staring at the spreadsheet. And they're looking at this thing and they're typing in this thing. They're looking at this thing and typing. They're looking up this thing, they're typing in this thing. Then they're looking at it and looking at the calculation and seeing if there's something off, and they're trying to see if there's some insights. Well, you can automate this with the SaaS offering. You can just literally automate the syncing of the data, right? That's what integrations do. You can actually automate the calculations. You can figure out what the right things to calculate are and make sure that you're doing it effectively. And you can actually go one up more. Instead of having the human being stare at the spreadsheet day in, day out, you can say, look, we'll monitor the data, we'll sync the data, we'll take your inputs, and we'll constantly run the calculations. And if something happens that's worth noting, we'll let you know. We'll trigger you, right? Are you guys getting this? And automatically you're taking this spreadsheet and making it 10 times better. But you want to know how to really up your game? Well, the thing that matters the most is the value and the benefits that your users will get out of that spreadsheet. The value and benefits are on insights. So the first thing you can do is just take all these insights and help them make these decisions, right? And help them take the actions. But then with SaaS offerings, where they really become world dominating level, is that you can start to do recommendations. Because you have the full 360 view of the data, you can say, oh, I recommend you do this. You should probably take this action. For Tout, it was like, hey, they opened your email, they clicked on the link, but they didn't reply. You should send them another email. It recommended it to you, right? Or you should give them a phone call. We did that. We replaced that workflow. We figured out that loop. The last thing is you can actually automate actions. So they might take a certain action by looking at this and staring at this and trying to decipher things, but it may be a repetitive action that you can just automate. If your SaaS can do that, then they can just focus on the decision making, which is more important. Are you guys getting this? Are you starting to see how a mission critical spreadsheet that goes through this loop can be translated into a SaaS offering into these three pillars? And that's how you can create a really compelling product loop and a product strategy. So to really connect this, to really bring this home, great products, right? Great products have one loop. Millions of Excel spreadsheets are used in medicine, science, economics, and finance, believe it or not. Yet, this is a crazy stat that you can look up. Up to 90% have serious, even life-threatening errors. That's how crazy that is. So it's not like, oh, I'd like to replace the spreadsheet. They're like, why? Everybody knows this. There's so many bugs in a spreadsheet. There's so much repetitive work on a spreadsheet. So if your SaaS offering can reduce the bugs, reduce the risk, increase efficiencies, and automate the things so that humans are focused on making actual decisions, think of how much value you can generate. Great SaaS products turn the data entry into a spreadsheet, into a workflow for each user involved. That's your product loop. And then they automatically pull in data from disparate data sources through integrations, eliminating manual data entry errors. That's an even more value. And finally, great SaaS products orient the workflow into helping the user focus on making decisions and taking action. And I'll give you one more, automating away the actions that they don't have to take that are repetitive. So for Tout App, we knew that if they looked at a bunch of things, we should send them another email. Why do we need the user to actually decide to send another email? We can just send it automatically. So we just automated that action. They didn't have to do it. That's the power of a SaaS offering, right? So you want to get the loop right. So when you really think about it, the biggest opportunity with SaaS when it comes to building the right product strategy is that you can actually, you have a 360 view of the data, you have full ownership of the workflow, and all of like the real opportunity comes. Like you can replace a spreadsheet, but you might say, man, it's really hard to convince them to replace a spreadsheet. It won't be when you can say, look, it'll reduce errors, it'll reduce risk, but also because we have full access to the data, we'll give you predictions and automations and insights, which you cannot get. You're relying on a human for, and they can't do it fast enough. So we will do that for you. And that's where the power comes. And I didn't want to, it's kind of AI, but it's kind of really not. It's really more algorithms, but it can be AI. I don't want to like go too much on the buzzwords. But yeah, AI is one way to think about it. This is a pro tip as you think about your product workflow. Can you monitor the changes that are happening in the data and the workflow like a human would and would have to manually? So often humans are just constantly checking spreadsheets to see something's changed. And based on that, they're running some decision-making framework to see if they need to take some action. Can you automate that? Can you monitor those changes and tell them like, hey, these 5 things changed. That means this, you should look at this. That's where the power is. And based on that, are you automatically able to flag triggers and insights and drive the workflow? Where instead of waiting for the human to do something and say like, hey, you should probably do this. You get the humans to take the best action. This is how you disrupt the spreadsheet. This leads to cost savings, reduced risk, increased success, and unique differentiated value you can charge a premium for. That's how you disrupt the spreadsheets, and that's all through building the right product loop, right? Are you guys getting this? Isn't this powerful? And it's so, like, you will not imagine, like, that stat really struck me, how much of the world still runs in spreadsheets and how error-prone they are. Think about that. 90% of them have some serious bugs. Some of them are life-threatening. That's how scary this is. But that's also the opportunity for us. Okay, who's ready for secret number 3? That was secret number. So I covered market, covered product. Number 3 is your go-to-market. Who's ready for that? Hit me with a yes while I drink some water. Okay, cool. Let me go over here again. I want to make sure we're live. Yeah, we're good. Cool. All right, let's go to secret number 3. All right. So secret number 3 is your go-to-market strategy is the most important thing after market. Product is important. Without product, you have nothing. But this is where most startups go wrong. So you got to get your go-to-market right. This is for building any SaaS business, right? And I believe in having your one unstoppable sales funnel. That's what's super important to me. So there's a few, let's just talk about like the top 20 reasons startups fail. This is a postmortem that CVA Insights did, 101 startup postmortems. And what they found was there was some pattern to why startups fail. If you look at this, no market need. It means they raised money, they built a bunch of stuff, market didn't want it. They got outcompeted. The pricing was off. The business model wasn't there. The marketing wasn't quite right. They ignored their customers. They didn't listen to their customers. But really, what is the common pattern? It's go-to-market. Go-to-market is one of the biggest killers of startups. And I dug into these stats a little bit more. This is actually stats that I pulled when I was first building out my coaching practice. Only 4% of startups graduate from the seed stage. Only 4%. Now, it used to be a lot higher, but today it's only 4%. On top of that, 70% of startups getting funded at Series A are generating consistent revenues, which means the bar is higher than ever for actually raising a Series A. So what that means is the mortality rate for startups are pretty insane. Now, we know we're going after the impossible and 99% fail, but 4% is weird because I'm like, what are they doing right? What are they like getting right? So the postmortem says go-to-market is one of the biggest killers. And I'm like, well, what are they doing wrong? So I dug into it a little bit more. Where do founders actually go wrong when they're building out their SaaS businesses? Here's the thing. You can go create a cool name. You can say like, my company's name is awesome.io. I'm awesome.io. Great. Logo, you can do the slick website. You can do the blog, the social profiles, the ads, the MVP or the full product, the SEO, the press release. You can raise $3 million. You can do all of these things and still end up with not enough traction, no clear product market fit, no insights, and in the dead zone. Isn't that crazy? Like, think about that for a second. You can do all of these things, which are supposed to be the best practices for every startup. You can do all of these things and you can still end up in the dead zone. How crazy is that? And so how do you overcome this? How do you actually overcome the fact that go-to-market is one of the biggest killers? I say you got to do go-to-market early. You need to build an audience early. So often I see founders, number one, they get caught up in the one more feature trap. So they don't think about loops. They don't think about the market. They just pick something that they really like, but they don't think about the market. And then they say, all right, when all this is built, when we've invested all this time and money, and we've done all this, then we'll hire a content marketer and do sales and marketing. And that will generate revenues. That's not, we just need a great marketer. Great marketers are accelerators, meaning they can multiply. If you've got a 0, or even a great marketer is going to times it by 0, you're going to end up with 0. Which is why I always say this. Here's the third secret. You want to start with building an audience. Build an audience for people. Build out your go-to-market early. One of the things that I get all my coaching clients to do is build out their one-sentence value prop. My company, blank, creates software for the ICP that helps them. What's the result? That's it. And the only way to really know when you have your market, go-to-market, and when you have your market and product thesis, the only way you know to validate it and validate whether it's an important and urgent problem, yes, finding the right spreadsheet helps, is to go to those people and build an audience with them and get into sales conversations with them. That is the only way you'll really know. Build an audience, ask them what they want, sell it to them. That's how you validate. That's how you validate as fast as possible. So you might be wondering, how do we do this? So inside of my coaching program, I actually teach people, if you're in the super early stages, we teach you how to build an unstoppable 3-step mini funnel. Unstoppable 3-step mini funnel actually doesn't require you to have your product built. But what it does allow you to do is get into a lot of sales conversations and build an audience of people that will help you validate your thesis. Once you build out a mini funnel, it'll actually help you get to initial revenue as you build the product. It'll help you validate your thesis. That's what it means to build an audience. And then once you have some revenues, we have founders in my programs that are at 100K ARR to 8 million ARR. And we help them scale their go-to-market if you're in the later stage. And then we graduate you to what I call an unstoppable sales funnel. Unstoppable sales funnel, here's the thing. You can do all those things that I had on that list. Let me go back to that list. You can do all of these things and still fail. An unstoppable sales funnel focuses on what actually matters for your go-to-market. We actually help you build out your ICP. We help you identify the right macro trends for your market. We help you create a manifesto. And then we help you run a Broadway show to attract people out of your ICP into your manifesto, into your sales process. It's a very specific system. Now, I don't have enough time to go into all the systems and everything because that'll take too much. You can kind of look some of this stuff up on YouTube. By the way, if you are on YouTube and watching this, smash that like button if you're getting value. And on YouTube, I have over 100 videos on SaaS businesses and on mindset of a founder. So be sure to hit subscribe and that bell icon so that you get notified when I drop an episode. So that's go to market. You really want to make sure you build an audience early and validate this. Now, finding a spreadsheet that's mission critical will help you hack this, but you might be making a bunch of assumptions in your product strategy. So it's important to get your go-to-market going early. And the way I usually coach you to do that is get your mini funnel going first. Okay. So to recap, if you want to go take a spreadsheet and disrupt it, if you want to go build a successful SaaS business, these are the 3 secrets. Market is everything. Great product is about loops and not features. And you want to build an audience early. You want to use go-to-market to actually validate your product and market, your product loop and your market. And what this means is that you need that one core strategy that doesn't just over-index on product, but does product, market, and go-to-market all together in one strategy. So let me ask you guys, do you see how all of this is infinitely easier to do if you can identify a mission critical spreadsheet being used in a large organization? Do you see this? You see why everyone resonated with the tweet, but didn't quite know why? Are you starting to see how if you can figure out who do you want to serve and find the spreadsheet that is mission critical for them and see how you can disrupt it? You create that market strategy and that product loop and then go build that go-to-market strategies to attract them. You see how you can build a SaaS business.